I want you to really picture this for a second. You are standing outside on a sidewalk in Moscow. It's pitch black, the wind is just howling, and the temperature is sitting at a brutal minus 20 degrees Celsius.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no thanks.
Right. You are absolutely freezing, and right in front of you is this unregistered taxi. So you're leaning in through a cracked window, shivering, trying to haggle over a fare with a driver in a language you probably don't fully speak.
Sounds incredibly stressful.
Totally. And for a ride you can't even confirm is safe. Sounds like an absolute nightmare, right?
Yeah, honestly, it sounds like a scene from a very tense survival movie.
But for a long time, I mean, that wasn't a movie. That was just Tuesday.
Just a standard commute.
Exactly. That was the everyday reality of trying to get around in some of the coldest, largest cities on Earth. And what is just staggering to me is how completely that reality has been erased.
It really is wild when you look at the numbers.
Yeah, because right now, in Moscow alone, there are over 5 million rides booked via apps every single day.
5 million.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every single day. Over 60% of urban Russians use ride-hailing apps at least once a month. We're talking millions of people orchestrating their entire movement across this massive geographic landscape entirely through smartphones.
The sheer volume of those transactions tells a very specific story, I think. We're looking at a society that hasn't just, adopted a new tech feature. They have entirely bypassed the old way of doing things.
Yeah, they really did.
They fully embraced a digital infrastructure that essentially replaced this chaotic analog system, and they did it almost overnight.
So today's deep dive is about exactly that. We are going through a stack of research detailing how car booking apps have completely rewired transportation in Russia.
It's a fascinating shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
We are going to explore how ride-hailing over there isn't just a convenient alternative to taxis anymore. It is the default. Okay, let's unpack this. Why did this massive shift happen so quickly and so comprehensively?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look at the environment first.
Okay, the environment.
Yeah, you can't just look at the software in a vacuum. You have to understand why the environment made these apps an absolute necessity for daily survival.
Right, it's not just a luxury.
Exactly. This wasn't just some passing tech trend where people thought, oh, this is neat. It was a geographic and climatic imperative.
Which goes right back to that image of the minus 20-degree weather I mentioned. Taking a traditional Russian taxi back in the day was essentially a blind negotiation in a freezer.
That is a very accurate way to describe it.
Taxis were wildly unpredictable. You were haggling face to face. And from what I understand in the sources, a driver could just flat out refuse to take you if the trip was, too short.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or if it took them to a neighborhood they just didn't want to drive back from late at night.
That's crazy. And if you were a tourist, I imagine the friction was even worse.
Way worse. Unofficial or unregistered taxis were everywhere, usually just waiting near airports or major hotels to prey on visitors.
Right, because visitors don't know any better.
Exactly. Without a clear pricing structure or, a functioning meter, visitors routinely got severely overcharged. They had no baseline for what a ride should actually cost.
And the language barrier probably made negotiating almost impossible anyway.
Right. Which brings us back to the climate factor. I mean, minus 20 degrees Celsius isn't just uncomfortable.
No, that's not like button up your coat weather.
No, it's genuinely dangerous. In cities like Moscow, Yekaterinburg, Novosibirsk, we are talking about long, brutal winters.
Yeah.
Waiting outside for an unpredictable taxi in those conditions is a safety hazard. So when these ride-hailing apps introduce the ability to book a ride from indoors.
Right. You stay inside where it's warm.
Exactly. You track the car's exact location on a map, and you only step outside the second the car pulls up to the curb. That wasn't just a convenience feature.
It was a lifeline.
Literally. It removed the physical pain of commuting.
It's essentially a digital shield against the environment. You use the app to stay warm, but it's not just the weather, right? It's also the sheer physical size of these places.
Yeah. Russia's cities are enormous. I mean, Moscow is one of the largest cities in the world by area.
Right, it's massive.
And yes, public transit, like the metro system there, is world-class on the main corridors. But what happens when you need to cross the city at 2 in the morning when the metro is closed?
You're kind of stuck.
Right. Or what if you're trying to reach a sprawling residential district that just isn't directly on a train line? You need a car.
So the apps fill that gap?
Yeah, ride-hailing apps dynamically fill in those massive geographical gaps. They don't depend on fixed routes or schedules.
Which means the transportation network molds itself to the population in real time.
Exactly.
But for an entire population to switch to this dynamic network, they have to be ready to use the technology, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can build the greatest app in the world, but if nobody has a smartphone, it completely fails.
But the timing was perfect here because the tech readiness of the population was already incredibly high.
Oh, hooray.
Yeah, almost everyone in major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg already had a smartphone in their pocket.
Okay, so the hardware was there.
And the habits were there. They were already accustomed to using mobile digital services for shopping, paying bills, banking, you name it.
So the tech companies didn't have to force a massive behavioral change.
Exactly. They didn't have to teach the public how to use an app. They just plugged a highly necessary service into a digital habit that was already deeply ingrained in the culture.
That makes total sense. I mean, if you are visiting one of these cities, imagine how much pure anxiety just evaporates when complete transparency replaces a dark, street corner haggling session.
It changes the entire experience of the city.
Totally. You know the price before you agree, you know the car model, and you know exactly when to walk out your front door.
Because the environment demanded that transparency, the market exploded.
And that brings us to the players who built the infrastructure, the big four.
Right, because once the demand was proven, the competition to control this new digital infrastructure became fierce.
Oh, I bet.
And it fractured the market in some really interesting ways.
Well, let's start with the undisputed giant of the space, Yandex Go. If you are reading up on Russian tech at all, this name is just everywhere.
Oh yes, ubiquitous.
It is a multi-service behemoth. They don't just do taxis. They do car sharing, courier services, food delivery. They basically became the dominant platform after Uber's operations merged with Yandex in Russia.
They really swallowed up the market.
But hold on, I need to push back on this because the data flags a massive potential issue for anyone visiting.
Okay, what's that?
Well, Yandex Go does not accept foreign Visa or MasterCard. So if I step off a plane in Moscow right now with an American or European credit card, am I just completely stranded?
Not at all, but it's a really vital point because it highlights how these platforms have adapted to very specific economic reality.
Like, how do you pay?
The app works around the international payment blockade by offering a pay-in-cash option.
Really? Just cash?
Yeah, you just select cash when ordering, and at the end of the ride, you pay the driver directly.
Wait, I have to interrupt there. Doesn't paying in cash completely ruin the whole frictionless, safe, no haggling ecosystem we literally just talked about?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm handing over rubles in the back of a car at night, aren't we just back to the old days?
It seems like it would be a step backwards, but it doesn't actually ruin it, and here is why. The app still acts as the strict arbiter of the transaction.
Okay, how does that work?
Even though you're handing over physical cash, the app dictates the exact amount down to the ruble. It's right there on your screen and on the driver's screen.
So there's no room for debate?
None. There is no negotiation. If the driver tries to demand more or, claims they don't have change to try and force a tip, you simply report it in the app.
Oh, wow. And I assume the app takes that seriously.
Very. The penalties for drivers violating the algorithmic pricing are severe. We're talking temporary or permanent bans from the platform.
So the software enforces the behavior, even when the payment is analog.
Exactly. Plus, the entire interface is in English, meaning you never actually have to speak to the driver to negotiate the route or the fare in the first place.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The app is basically an escrow system holding both sides accountable.
That's a great way to look at it.
So Yandex Go is the giant, the dominant ecosystem. But obviously, one company can't hold a monopoly on a country that size without leaving gaps.
Right, which leads to the second major player in the space, Citymobil.
Yeah, Citymobil is fascinating because of who they targeted.
When you have a giant like Yandex, the only way to compete is to find the friction that Yandex creates and solve it.
And what was that friction?
Well, Yandex is premium, it's everywhere, but during peak hours or bad weather, its surge pricing can be astronomical.
So Citymobil swoops in.
Exactly. Citymobil saw a massive gap for the everyday blue-collar commuter who just needs to get to work without going bankrupt.
But how do they actually keep prices lower without just bleeding money? Or, like, creating a race to the bottom where drivers just refuse to work for them?
By running a leaner, highly targeted operation. They position themselves as the no-fuss, budget-friendly alternative.
Okay, so they aren't trying to be premium.
Right. And they focus heavily on high-density urban zones where drivers can string together a high volume of short, quick trips rather than long, sprawling rides.
Ah, so volume makes up for the lower fares.
Precisely. More volume means drivers still make money, but the individual passenger pays less. They are also super aggressive with promo codes and commuter loyalty programs.
So when Yandex surges, people open Citymobil.
Exactly. When the surge pricing hits the bigger platforms, Citymobil is the pressure valve. It's the practical workhorse of the city.
I really like that dynamic. Yandex conquered the tech-heavy urbanites, and Citymobil undercut them for the daily commuters.
That's the breakdown, yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because both of those companies were fighting an absolute bloodbath over Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Oh, fiercely.
Meanwhile, this third app, Maxim, looked at the map of the largest country on Earth, and they just went where the others refused to go.
It is a textbook blue ocean strategy. While the giants were spending millions to acquire a single user in Moscow, Maxim was quietly building a massive presence in smaller Russian cities, regional towns, and rural outposts.
But how does a tech company even do that? I mean, establishing a digital ride-hailing network in, like, a Siberian town that might not even have fully digitized map data seems impossible.
It's tough, and it requires a completely different operational playbook. You can't just parachute a slick corporate app into a regional town and expect it to work.
So what did they do differently?
Maxim focused on localized recruitment. They weren't necessarily looking for full-time professional drivers. They tapped into the local economy by allowing ordinary people with cars to monetize their daily commutes.
Kind of like the very early days of ride-sharing here.
Exactly. And they adapted to economies that were almost entirely cash-based. They built their own localized logistical webs.
That's incredibly smart.
Because they took the time to build that grassroots infrastructure, if you were traveling outside the major urban centers, Maxim isn't just an alternative option.
Let me guess, it's the only option.
Yeah, it is often the only dependable, centralized taxi service available for hundreds of miles.
They didn't disrupt the infrastructure. They built it from scratch where literally none existed.
That's a huge achievement.
That is incredible. And then completing the picture, we have the fourth major player, which feels like the exact opposite of Maxim's sprawling rural strategy, and that's taxibookingapp.
Exactly. Taxibookingapp is a St. Petersburg native, and they found a very specific high-trust niche.
So they aren't going for scale.
No, they aren't trying to be the fastest, they aren't trying to be the cheapest, and they certainly aren't trying to conquer rural Siberia.
What's their angle then?
They are aiming for absolute, unwavering reliability and professionalism.
What does that actually look like in practice, though? Does the app itself function differently?
The interface is similar, but the back-end mechanics are much stricter. Their driver vetting process is notoriously rigorous compared to the budget platform.
Okay, so higher quality control.
Much higher. They manage professional fleets, and they lean heavily into pre-booking features.
Oh, like scheduling a ride in advance?
Right. Think about it. If you have a critical flight out of Pukovo Airport at 4 a.m., you might not want to rely on a dynamic algorithm hoping a budget driver just happens to be awake and nearby.
Yeah, I'd be sweating bullets hoping a car shows up.
Exactly. So you use taxibookingapp because you are paying a premium for the absolute certainty that a clean car with a highly rated professional driver will be waiting outside your door at 3:45 a.m.
So the market has naturally segmented itself completely.
It really has.
Yandex is the all-encompassing ecosystem. Citymobil is the budget-friendly commuter workhorse. Maxim is the regional and rural conqueror. And taxibookingapp is the high-trust local professional.
That's the landscape in a nutshell.
But regardless of which app you open, the underlying technology has just fundamentally changed the mechanics of moving through a city.
What's fascinating here is how the software essentially engineered danger and uncertainty completely out of the equation.
Yeah, going back to what we said earlier about the unregistered taxis.
Exactly. Traditional street taxis had zero accountability. You got in a car with a stranger, the transaction was unrecorded, and if something went wrong, you had no recourse.
You were basically on your own.
Completely. Yeah. The apps flipped that dynamic overnight by introducing a fully tracked, mutually accountable system.
It's like having a digital bodyguard, a financial advisor, and a translator all living inside your phone.
That's a great analogy.
Let's actually walk through what that looks like step by step for the listener, because it's surprisingly frictionless.
Okay, let's do it.
Say you are a visitor, you download the app. You don't even need to figure out how to buy a Russian SIM card to register, right?
Right, you can just use your home country's phone number to get the SMS verification code.
Which is huge. So you open the app and it speaks your language. You type in your destination in English and the app instantly translates and maps it.
So there's no stumbling over pronunciations.
Exactly. No driver nodding and pretending they know where you mean when they're actually lost.
And that is the exact moment the financial transparency kicks in. Before you ever hit confirm, you are presented with options. You choose the vehicle class based on your current need.
Right. You aren't just taking whatever rusty car rolls by.
No, you have total control.
You tap economy if you're on a budget, comfort if you want a newer car and a higher rated driver, business if you're heading to a corporate meeting, or a minivan if you have luggage.
And once you select the class, the algorithm instantly calculates the route, the traffic, the current demand, and spits out an exact fare.
And you agree to that price before the car even moves an inch.
And that upfront pricing is locked in.
Even if there's traffic.
Even if the driver takes a wrong turn or hits unexpected traffic, the passenger doesn't sit there watching a meter tick up in a panic.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Everyone does. But here, the risk is absorbed by the platform, not the user.
That's brilliant.
Once you agree, the safety mechanisms activate. You are immediately shown the driver's first name, their photo, the make and model of the car, and the license plate number.
And you can literally watch their little car icon navigate the live GPS map toward you.
Yeah, and when it arrives, you just glance at the license plate to make sure it matches your screen. It takes 2 seconds.
And once you are in, your route is tracked in real time. If you are nervous or, traveling late at night, you can just tap a button to share your live trip with a friend.
Right, and they can watch your dot move across the map on their own phone.
It's such peace of mind.
It is. But the real behavioral enforcement happens after you get out of the car. The two-way rating system.
Right. You rate the driver, but the driver also rates you.
That is paramount. In the old taxi system, an angry driver or a terrible passenger just walked away into the night. No consequences.
It's just a bad memory.
Exactly. Now, every interaction creates a permanent data trail. If a driver is unsafe, their rating drops, and the algorithm stops sending them rides.
They literally lose their livelihood.
They do. But similarly, if a passenger is abusive or makes a mess of the car, their rating drops. Drivers can see passenger ratings before accepting a ride.
Oh, so you can basically blacklist yourself.
Yes, if your rating is too low, you might find it very difficult to get a car late at night. It creates this powerful, invisible pressure for mutual respect that simply did not exist in the analog world.
But let me ask about the one thing everybody absolutely hates. Surge pricing.
Ah, yes, the dreaded surge.
What happens when it's pouring rain, it's rush hour, and thousands of people are trying to get a ride at the exact same time? Are you just trapped into paying whatever the algorithm demands?
Well, surge pricing is often misunderstood.
How so?
It isn't just the company trying to gouge the user. It is a necessary mechanism to balance supply and demand.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think about it. If it starts snowing heavily, demand skyrockets. But drivers might want to just go home because the roads are dangerous.
Right, I wouldn't want to drive in a blizzard.
Exactly. If the price stays flat, there are no cars available, and the whole system fails. By surging the price, the app incentivizes more drivers to get on the road to actually meet that demand.
But from the user's perspective, they just see their daily commute suddenly costing 3 times as much.
Which is incredibly frustrating, yes.
Yeah.
But the crucial difference between the app and the old system is transparency.
Because it tells you upfront.
Right. The app alerts you to the surge before you book. The screen might turn red or show a multiplier icon. It gives you, the user, the data you need to make an informed decision.
If you have choices.
Exactly. Do I pay the premium because I absolutely have to leave right now? Do I open Citymobil to see if their surge is lower? Do I just wait 20 minutes in the warmth of my office for the demand to drop? Or do I use the scheduling feature for later?
The control remains in your hands.
Always.
It really is a perfectly engineered user experience. They took all the friction, the danger, the weather, the uncertainty, and they just engineered it entirely away.
They solved the core problem.
So they've conquered the massive cities. They've solved the terrifying winter weather problem. They've built an incredibly robust logistical network. Where does a multi-billion-dollar industry go from here? Like, what is the actual future of Russian mobility?
The future isn't just about moving people anymore. It's about moving absolutely everything.
Everything.
Yes, these platforms have realized that once you have a network of drivers and a flawless mapping algorithm, you can deliver anything. They are rapidly evolving into super apps.
Super apps, meaning they integrate everything into one interface.
Yes, you don't open one app for a taxi and another for food. You open Yandex and you order your ride to work, you order your groceries for the evening, and you hire a courier to drop off a document across town, all within the exact same ecosystem.
That is wild.
And brilliant for the platform because it keeps drivers constantly utilized.
Because there's always something to move.
Right. If it's 11:00 a.m. and nobody needs a ride to work, the driver isn't sitting idle. The algorithm seamlessly shifts them to delivering lunch orders.
It smooths out the driver's income.
Exactly, and makes the platform completely indispensable to the user. They are turning into one-stop digital hubs for every single urban need.
And the financial projections reflect that exact expansion. The data from Deep Market Insights shows the Russian ride-sharing market size is projected to hit an incredible $8.83 billion by 2033.
That is massive.
It is. And because that underlying infrastructure is so proven and so deeply integrated into daily life now, it's actually becoming commoditized.
What do you mean by commoditized?
Well, the sources detail how the technology behind these apps is now so well understood that you don't even need a team of Silicon Valley engineers to build one anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are companies out there like Enatega, which was heavily featured in the research, that offer white label platforms.
A white label.
Right. For anyone listening who doesn't know, a white label platform means you can essentially buy the underlying tech of an Uber or Yandex just out of the box.
It's like buying a cake mix instead of baking from scratch.
Exactly. You buy the pre-written code, slap your own localized branding on it, and you can launch a regional taxi service in a mid-sized town without writing a single line of code.
That is incredible.
The playbook is written, it works, and now it can be replicated anywhere.
Which accelerates the exact phenomenon we saw with Maxim. It means hyperlocal, regional ride-sharing networks can spring up in towns that the giants have totally ignored.
So what does this all mean? When you pull back and look at the whole picture, in Russia, a car booking app isn't just an app on your phone anymore. It is essential infrastructure.
It really is?
It has completely replaced the traditional fabric of urban logistics.
It has. But this raises an important question, and it's something I think is absolutely vital to consider as we watch this technology evolve.
Lay it on me.
We noted that these private ride-hailing platforms are aggressively expanding into smaller rural towns.
Right.
And with the super app model, they are integrating all local rides, food deliveries, and logistics into a single privately owned ecosystem.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
If this trajectory continues, will we reach a point where these private applications entirely replace the need for public government-funded transportation infrastructure in those rural areas?
Wow. Yeah, if a private company is handling all the transit, why would a local town council ever fund a bus route?
Exactly. What happens to the dynamics of a society when a single app becomes the absolute gatekeeper of how a town moves, how its citizens get to the hospital, and how they eat?
That's a huge shift in power.
Right. When public infrastructure becomes a private algorithm who is really in control of the city.
That is a heavy, incredibly fascinating thought to chew on. It's one thing when a piece of software helps you avoid waiting in the freezing cold. It's an entirely different reality when that software becomes the literal operating system for a whole town's survival.
It's definitely something we all need to be paying attention to.
For sure. And that is where we will leave it for today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a great discussion.
Hopefully, it gave you a completely new perspective on how a supposedly simple app can completely rewire a nation's physical infrastructure. Keep questioning the everyday technology around you. Think about who holds the keys to how you move. And the next time you open your phone to get a ride, just be glad you aren't shivering on a dark sidewalk in -20-degree weather trying to negotiate a fare. We will catch you on the next deep dive.